All right, so this is kind of cool because I'm Jared Sandler, and I think for the first time I am actually having a conversation with someone who is also Jared Sandler, although
I'm Jared Sandler too.
You are. Now, you have a middle name. You are Jared Mitchell Sandler. I do not have a middle name. So I guess it would be appropriate to ask what's Mitchell? What's the significance of Mitchell, since that's the separating factor?
You don't have a middle name at all?
I don't. So my family's South African. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but my mom did not like her middle name, and so neither I nor my brothers have middle names.
Wow. That's
Hebrew name. My Hebrew name is Yosef.
Okay. Well, we don't have the same Hebrew name. But my middle name, does it have any meaning? Well, it's I don't. It's funny. I don't know if you know this or not, but okay. So basically, how do I even explain this? Okay. Middle name. My middle name was originally because my grandpa was named Morris, and so my mom was like, "I want you to name you after my dad, who passed away." Okay, but it's funny because I looked up because for stand-up purposes, I looked up the definition of my name and what it means, and it means, first of all, like it means our name Jared means descendant of Adam. Like Adam and Eve.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny because Mitchell means son of God. I'll get to that. So the descendant of Adam and Eve is funny because it's like Adam and Eve, the story with the apple. And my friend and I were going over this, and he just immediately went, "You know what that means, right?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "The apple's her," and I was like, "I never knew that. The apple's just a metaphor for the." Eve offers the apple, and Adam takes the apple, and then all this the sins come in. I never knew it was just her the whole 26 years alive. Everyone's like, they took the apple from the tree. No, it's a sex metaphor, and that's what was so interesting. So our name means descendant of sex. And then Mitchell, son of God. I'm like, okay, I must be a god at sex.
That is awesome. I've never looked up the meaning of our name. I don't know why I haven't.
Sandler's pretty obvious. It just means we were cobblers back in the day.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of back in the day, what I usually ask first, I'm curious, you can take in whatever direction you'd like, interests, hobbies, influences, whatever. But when you think back to your childhood, what are some of the things that stand out?
Ooh, I was fat. McDonald's was my favorite place. It was great. I would, this actually applies to you. I would sit in the car with my dad and listen to sports radio as we would eat McDonald's. I remember not being able to climb over a fence, like hop a fence, for weight reasons. And I remember I almost choked on bubble tape once. I played baseball. You remember those long, it looks like a roll of Scotch tape, and it was gum? Yeah. And, and my favorite part of Little League was getting hot dogs after the game.
Did you, and I only asked this because the last time I asked someone this was a baseball player named Eric Hosmer, and it turned out to be a great answer. I don't, maybe it's just natural. Yeah. Did you lose weight? Like, was it a conscious thing? Like, I got to lose weight, or did you just kind of grow out of it and end up like naturally slimming?
Oh, it was conscious, but also puberty helped. And then I did all this work, and I lost in the 2.5 weeks, I lost 10 pounds. And then I got my first middle school slow dance. I was like, it worked. I was literally dancing with this girl for the first time going, wow, this is hard. I guess hard work pays off. This is why I was on the elliptical.
So you grew up in New Hampshire, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'll be honest. I know I've been to, I think, like 43 states. New Hampshire is not one of them. I don't really know a whole lot about New Hampshire. What's it like growing up in New Hampshire, and what are the things that maybe are unique to New Hampshire?
Well, New Hampshire, there's this song out, this came out years ago, about how there's nothing to do there. And New Hampshire is interesting. It's like, I shit on it a lot because I'm from there, and I spent too much time there. A lot of people say it's beautiful. I've heard it once described as a beautiful place to go die, which is, someone said that to me. It was weird. No, but New Hampshire is like, it's nice. It has a mediocre version of everything. Like, it has the beach. It's a decent beach. It's fine. Has ski mountains. They're good. They're not great, but they're pretty good. The food's okay. New Hampshire's a place that I don't really miss, except for a couple friends. Like, people, when I moved out of New Hampshire, people were like, is there anything? It's one of those states where, like, people either leave or they get trapped there forever.
So you go to USC. Did you graduated high school in New Hampshire, or did you move before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I graduated high school in New Hampshire. Then I went to USC. And then that's when literally the second day at USC is when I heard about you. Okay, so let's I guess fill everybody in.
Yeah, well, okay, so we both went to USC. We were in the same fraternity, although your freshman year was my first year out, so we never overlapped. I think I remember sending a Facebook message to you being like, haha, this is kind of funny. Good luck, or hope all, I don't know. And then we multiple times a year will get tagged. Like, I apparently have a great stand-up comedy career because I get tagged in a lot of shows that I'm not a part of. And your recent movie, The Wrong Missy, I also apparently was a big part of that too. Yep. But okay, so how did you? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, we're in the same fraternity, same school, so it was going to come up. But was it like, oh, we just had a Jared Sandler? Like, how did you find out?
That's so funny. Yeah, Netflix reached out to you for The Wrong Missy. It was Sarah, but man. So I found out about you because I never partied in high school, and I don't know. I started rushing a fraternity, and the guys came up to me and they were like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And I said, hey, I'm Jared Sandler. And they were like, excuse me? And I was like, yeah, what? And they're like, yeah, I didn't know. They went, is that your real name? And then before they told me, like, I think it was Mateo, if you remember him.
Yeah, Mateo Epstein, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He brought like 4 other guys over and went, this is hilarious. Say your name. I'm like, why is this funny? It's Jared Sandler. And they were like, dude, we just had one of you.
We just got rid of that guy. I thought we were done.
That's literally what they said. I thought we were done with Jared Sandler. Yeah. Now we got the new one.
4 more years.
And then, like, as I was pledging, I would get compared to you.
Oh. Well, I set a really low bar. I don't know that my presence was missed in that house. So hopefully I set a bar low enough that
their whole experience, my whole experience during college was just like, the old Jared Sandler wouldn't do this. The old Jared Sandler would definitely do this. And it was pretty funny.
So did you just want to, like, punch me before you even met me? Like, that would be it would be so annoying.
I thought it was funny. I was like, wow. Also, I didn't know we joined this fraternity, ZBT. I didn't know it was Jewish at all. I was just like, I guess I just gravitate toward these guys. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, they're all Jews. So the fact that, like, growing up in New Hampshire, there's not many Jewish people at all. So the fact that I was in a group of Jewish people and someone had the same name as me, I was like, did I actually find people that are similar to me? It was kind of intriguing, to be honest.
That's pretty funny. I don't remember how I found out. I'm sure I got a text or something like, "You'll never believe it. There's a guy named Jared Sandler who's rushing the fraternity." But and I'm sure at that point I reached out, or maybe it wasn't until you actually like started pledging. But so you and I spoke over the phone a couple weeks ago. That was the first time we had any like actual communication. We exchanged messages.
Yeah, there was kind of some telepathy though, because I knew that was coming, because I was like, there was enough overlap at that point where it was like, okay, we gotta just like, I just gotta forward you the that people send me that's meant for you.
Okay, so I think like with a lot of people's lives, there's a linear component to it. You go to school, you go to college, then you begin your career, but you don't really have that. So I'm going to kind of bounce around and I'll try to keep some order to this, but it's tough because you started getting involved in your industry before you even went to college. So I guess when did you really start pursuing the entertainment industry in any capacity?
Man, I didn't really college, but I didn't know. Before college was just like any movie I was in or anything was just fun. I didn't really think that much about it. We went on set one day. So my uncle's Adam Sandler, for you all to understand the concept. Okay, so we were on set one day of Waterboy. I was like 4. My sister was 5, and all of a sudden, literally, it was just like, all right, you guys stand over here, and I didn't know what we were doing, and then they went, okay, when they point at you, you clap a lot, and then that's it. And I was like, okay, and I don't remember it really. I mean, I kind of do. Then they would point, and we'd clap. And then it looks crazy. It's in The Waterboy. It's the last scene in The Waterboy. And it's funny because everybody's in suits. And then you see 2 kids who are literally – I'm in a basketball uniform. And my sister's in a dress. We look out of place, but it's kind of just right for what happened. So the rest, like everything before college was just fun. I didn't know I wanted to do this. I was actually like – really into sports before. I still am, honestly. Sport. That's why I started entertainment, because it was similar to a sport.
Like the early movie experiences, was that like, and maybe when you're 4, like you already said you don't really remember a ton of it, but like, was that like your parents thinking, oh, like we're gonna, how fun would it be if our kids are in this? Or did you say like, oh, I'd like to do this? Or
I think it was my sister who was like, can we do it? And it's funny because I don't know if she'd want to do it now, but like, she's like, can we? And I think it was just like, yeah, sure. And I don't know what the hell happened, to be honest.
Okay.
But, yeah. No, because my parents never pushed it. And then when I hit puberty, I forgot about it, to be honest. I was like, there's so many other things going on. I was like, not even, I mean, I was in New Hampshire. I never thought about acting.
Okay, you go to college, and that's where you really started to think about it. At that point, I guess, as you were reintroduced to it, what were the things that captured you? I know you mentioned the entertainment side and the comparison to sports, but are there like certain moments where, like I remember, for instance, since USC, I went to USC. I guess I don't know, maybe.
Did you know you wanted to work in sports and media?
Yeah, so I wanted to. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about my, your lost Sandler relatives.
Yeah.
So my grandfather, David, was an Olympic caliber sprinter. I say that because in South Africa, not only being in South Africa, but being Jewish back when he was in his athletic prime, he won gold medals in the Maccabi Olympics because the actual Olympics were not an option for him. My dad was a soccer player professionally in South Africa. So I came from like a very athletic family. My older brothers were both really good athletes. And so I was like most kids, I wanted to be a professional athlete. And I'm 5'7", and so basketball was ruled out at a relatively young age.
Jared Sandler Boykins.
Yeah. Like Musty Bogues was my hero, but like, it just wasn't happening. Earl Boykins, all those guys. I got into broadcast games with Spud Webb, which is kind of neat because, again, for short people, that's like, oh, Spud Webb won a dunk contest.
Yeah.
But I did play sports really competitively through my senior year, and so I was weighing, like, do I go somewhere to play baseball because that ended up being the most realistic sport, or do I go and focus on career? And so I chose that.
And this thing with tennis.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. So you know what that decision's like, and I went to USC thinking that that's what I wanted to do. I really had zero experience, but before I was really good at bugging the crap out of people, and the guy who ran the broadcasting program for students happened to be from the Dallas area. And so I think maybe he was like, oh, like, this is cool, Dallas kid. And he gave me an assignment before classes started freshman year because someone got sick. I did a USC women's volleyball game. And I remember walking out of it thinking, like, I'm the next Al Michaels. Like, I got this. This is awesome. I look back at that tape, and it's the worst thing I think I could possibly have ever done.
You got it on tape.
I do have it on tape. But I loved it, and that was like the first dalliance I had, and then I loved preparing for the games. I loved calling the games. Similar to you, like the rush of that was my way to stay tied to sports, was being around it and the energy of the event. So, no, I didn't know for sure going to USC, but I did know it was something I wanted to try, and I've been lucky I haven't really had to try anything else since.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a weird decision. No one really thinks about it like your high school to college decision. You think about it at the time, but looking back, like nobody in their 30s is going to go back and say, that was a really big decision for me. But it was a big decision. Like, people will never, like, I've never heard a person really admit that, hey, I decided to go to college and not play baseball, and that was really tough for me. No one admits that because they're like, well, if you didn't go for baseball, you must have not have loved it that much. And you're like, no, I missed it a lot.
So I almost transferred, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who, if it's not love at first sight, maybe they think about it. But, like, so I ended up working for the baseball program at USC for 4 years, and that was another way for me to be connected and to be in the dugout and feel like I was a part of a team.
That must have been.
Unfortunately, like, my wardrobe is now, like, this is one of the few dry fit shirts I have that's not a USC baseball shirt. So it was tough. Like, I would be lying if I said that, and we talked about this over the phone, like, both of us were ready to leave school, not because we didn't like it, but because we wanted to go on and do what it is that we wanted to do. And I think, like, when I first got to college, it wasn't like I was running away from Dallas, like, eager to get to college immediately. I enjoyed high school. I enjoyed, growing up in that area. And so I did fall in love with USC. Or my experiences, at least I recognize how important it was, but it was not an easy transition for me at all.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, what's that like for you, though? Like, I'm curious, like, your transition.
I loved going to California and going to college, mainly because of girls. But that was no, but it was. I remember my dad. He said, because I trained at a tennis academy in Florida, like I did all this stuff. And
like the dedicated tennis first, like, kind of school. You did.
Yeah, I went to Everett, Chris Everett's academy for a summer. I remember they said to my dad, they were like, "Well, he's got to go play some tournaments in Europe," and he was like, "Why would he he'll play in the U.S." And then I remember my dad said to me before, like, senior year of high school, he said, if you want, you could take a year off, a gap year, and see how good you get at tennis if you want. And I was like, this isn't serious. That's not the linear progression of life. Like, no way they're going to look at me and say, what the hell am I doing? And I didn't do it. Looking back, I'm like, I don't know. Could have been cool. And now I play tennis too. Now I'm always like, I wonder how good I could actually.
So you still play?
Oh, yeah. But there is that part of me going, I could have been. I don't know what would have happened, but I could have been pretty damn good.
So when we do finally meet in person, we'll have to play some tennis. I'm not that good. I'm more of like an athlete who plays tennis as opposed to like a trained tennis player. You'd kick my ass, but it'd be fun. Okay, so then you were part of the theater program at USC.
Yep.
Was there like a performance or something that like hooked you? Like what was it that hooked you to entertainment?
What hooked me was I worked as a production assistant, and there's a movie called That's My Boy, and it came out, oh God, that was like 8 years ago. And I worked as a production assistant in the camera department on that. And then I saw that the actors were having a ton of fun. Like they were laughing, they were having the most fun on set. And then I saw, I did an acting class at USC. I was so bad. Like, I sucked. I didn't know what I was doing. And then this teacher started explaining it to me a little bit. And I wasn't good, but the idea that I could do it, it felt like, oh, okay, there's a challenge. Like, I'm excited to get up and go to class at 8 a.m. And I'm excited to, like, give it my shot instead of everything else. I couldn't stand academics anymore. So that's what hooked me.
And then it's, you've been doing this since, and I'm going to get into the stand-up here in a little bit. I told you there's no organization to this. But so we're going to now move forward. The most recent movie, The Wrong Missy, on Netflix. Yep. Watched it now twice, once by myself, once with family. But I'm curious because, and I don't want to, no spoilers here, but the opening scene, I guess it's the opening scene. It's a blind date that goes really poorly, I guess, in some sense.
It was horribly, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious because I do have one really, really bad blind date experience that's like would maybe some way, shape, or form compare.
I have a few good ones.
Okay, well, I was going to ask if there's like if when you think of that scene and I don't even know how to describe it other than just general sense, blind date gone wrong. Is there one that pops in your mind?
Yeah, I haven't thought about this one in a while, actually. Man, I don't even know where to start with this one. It was my fault. I was the bad date. So I don't drink anymore, but in college, like, drinking was a thing, totally. And our fraternity, I never really think about our fraternity anymore. But
yeah, there.
Yeah, but just because it was in my mind, our fraternity went to Vegas every year. Mm-hmm. Did they do that with you?
For a formal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. I'm a kid from New Hampshire going to school for the first time in California, and they go, by the way, we're going to go to Vegas and like have a good time every year with like 140 of us. I was like, is this real? Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, what? This doesn't make any. Anyways, I didn't know what to do for that. But I was drunk one night. I didn't drink. I drank in college, but not like more than the average. But one night I asked this girl who I just met if she wanted to go to Vegas with me. The problem was the next day, and she was so sweet. The next day, I woke up and I couldn't remember. I couldn't. I think I knew kind of who it was, but like I was not too sure. And then we finally when we really met was when we were about to leave, because I was like, I guess I can't take this back now. And we were about to leave. Someone walks up to the door of the house, and I was like, how's it going? And she was like, I'm excited for this. I'm like, it is you. Me too. And it was very, that was not one of my finer moments. But we had a good time.
Okay, so it ended well. That's good.
It ended pretty well. It was like, we were friends. It was just fun.
Yeah.
It was it was a big mistake on my part. Like, not because of her, because of, like, that's when I realized, don't make any decisions when you're drunk. It was the first year I ever drank. I didn't know.
Another Wrong Missy question. And I'm horrible at knowing when something is like shot on site or if there's a green screen or whatever, but there are scenes on a boat. Were those shot? Were you on the water on a boat, or is that like green screen?
Yeah. Did you have a blind date story?
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yes. I got two quick ones. One, I was set up by a friend, and it was someone, and I don't want, because I'm confident this could get back to both people, so no names right here now. But a friend of mine, when I was single, set me up on a blind date with someone that she knew, but wasn't like a best friend, but someone she knew from work. And I got there early or on time, I don't remember. And I said, I'm 5'7", technically 5'6 3/4. And
the fact that you know that.
Yeah. So I knew, it's the era of social media. I knew what she looked like. It wasn't like I was waiting for someone to be like, are you, so I saw her walk in and I stood up. And it was just, a polite, like I'm going to stand up to greet her, to introduce myself. And I could tell that she saw me. And she then made an odd, like, change of direction and went to the bathroom. So I thought, okay, like, maybe she's got to go to the bathroom or she wants to make sure she looks fine, whatever. Well, then I noticed her leave the bathroom, and then I noticed her leave the restaurant, it was a bar. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe she maybe she left something in her car. And then I get a text like, hey, sorry, tied up at work, not going to be able to make it.
That was an abrupt end.
And I realized, I think she like stood up. I didn't know it was because I was short. I was like, she must have like seen me and like not liked the way I looked or something. And so I told her, my friend, or I guess our friend, texted me later, like, how did it go? And I'll be honest, I was bummed. Like, that was not.
Yeah, no, that's never a good feeling.
Yeah, like I was like, I already like had these fears, like I'm never going to meet anyone. And then eventually, like, we got confirmation that she saw that I wasn't tall, and she had the mindset, well, I didn't want to waste anyone's time, whatever. Then there was one where it was my fault. Prior to that, going on all these dates, and it's not clicking. And this person I'm friends with to this day, but there's this theory like you got to be a to like get a girl to like you, right? Like they like that. They like and that's just not me. Like I'm.
Do you still believe that theory?
What's that? Do
you still believe that theory?
Well, I don't, because I guess I guess I'll say this: the girl that. And I'm married now, but like the girl that I was going to end up with was going to be the girl that did not subscribe to that at all, because that's not the person I'd want. I wouldn't want someone who likes being treated like that, and I can't do that. But finally, like I was a few years after college, maybe a year after college, broadcasting, especially when you're not in a big city, it's tough to meet people. And I went on this date, and it was while I was back home. Just for a little bit, and I decided, all right, I'm going to try and not be Mr. Nice Guy and Mr. Friend Zone, because my history was like friend zone like within minutes. And I thought the date went really well, and I don't know that I was like an overt a-hole, but I definitely was trying to take on this persona, and I thought the date went well, and I sent the girl a text the next day, and she said,
"You were."
Well, she said, I know. Everyone, I was so excited to go on a date with you because I had heard how good of a guy, how nice of a guy you were. And in the text had something along the lines of, but you clearly felt the need to be someone you weren't. And I'm not interested in going on another date with that person. Said, like, I could tell basically, and we're friends now. We joke. She's like, I could tell that wasn't you. I could tell that was like, you were trying to be someone different. So those are the two bad like date stories that really come to mind.
Man, that is funny. That's funny. The first one. First of all, if you're on a blind date, like maybe she should have just sat down and stayed blind. Like, it's just weird. Like, I don't want to waste your time, but at the same time. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Blind date, I don't know. Blind dates have never really I'm sure someone did that to me once, but I just honestly like those are the best nights when someone does that to you because you make a new friend. You talk to the bartender and you're just like, you see how much of a piece of that person is?
Yeah.
And the bartender's like, yeah, wow. And then you suddenly make a new friend.
I wish I would have taken advantage of like that freedom of not having like that dinner now.
Yeah.
But I kind of went home and
that's okay.
Watched TV or something. I don't know.
I used to do that too. Like I would ask a girl out, like even when I was very young, and she would say no, but I'd be like, I'm getting better at this. Yeah.
There's progress.
Yeah, totally.
All right, quick, another one-off question on The Wrong Missy. So the boat scenes, do you ever get like sick on the boat? I mean that.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, like, so we were out in the water. No one really got sick. It was like, or maybe I think someone did actually, but they held it in pretty well. I think 2 people actually got sick now that I'm thinking about it. I'm used to being on a boat, so like, but there are times like I've shot a few movies sick. It is not fun.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's like you can't really call in sick on a movie, no matter what. Like, you got to be there. You got to do it. So that's just it's a tough day. But once I shot this movie, Father of the Year. It's on Netflix now. I was sick. No one really knew. It was like nothing contagious. If it was contagious, obviously, I'd be like, yo. But I'd speak up. But it was this thing going on with me. I had all these food allergies, and my stomach was messed up, and I didn't realize. Like, doctors couldn't figure it out for 7 months. But I shot this movie, and it's just like you don't know the circumstance that's going to get somebody sick because a movie changes so much. And it's exhausting. Like, it's fun, but it's tiring. But it happens, and there's a medic on set for that too. When it happens, it is a pain in the So a boat didn't help, but it was okay.
Okay, I'm glad that didn't go poorly. And so I want to get back into the movies in a little bit, but I really want to talk to you about the stand-up. So you are an actor. You're also a stand-up comedian. How did you, I guess, decide, all right, I want to give this stand-up comedy stuff a try?
This is how I started, okay. I saw that there's another Jared Sandler who was a sportscaster, and I needed a leg up. And, no, I don't know. Man, it is funny. Like, I'm sure, like, you got notes in high school or papers with your name on it. It's just amazing meeting someone with the same name. Like, yeah, every time I go online and, like, my name's not available on an account, I'm just like, yeah. Man, it's really good. So the stand-up. I started stand-up 4 years ago now. And, 4 years ago. I just started because I was doing other forms of comedy. And I just gravitated towards stand-up. At first, I didn't know what it was. I hated it. And then I saw a show with Adam and David Spade and Nick Swartzen and Rob Schneider and Norm Macdonald. And I saw how much fun stand-up could be. And I ever since, it was like I moved to New York during that time, and it was just started doing stand-up every night. So not to be dramatic, like there are obviously men and women who are doing courageous things for our country. I don't mean to compare it on that level, but like from a performance standpoint, to me, like stand-up takes a lot of courage. I never really realized it because how people are afraid of public speaking. And I don't know. I just was like, it. It's like, it is what it is. And I would get up there, and I wasn't good at first. Like, you just get up there and you do it, and you live with it. So, okay, the feeling of
whether it's a joke that doesn't land or a performance like early on, did you have the ability, the wherewithal to just leave the club or wherever and just be like, hey, that's a part of the business, or did that stuff really stick with you and grind at you?
It definitely grinded at me because I cared about it. And it was also a big reason to ask, well, just like a sport, it's like, all right, why did that not work? Whereas you would listen, so you record every stand-up set, and you listen back to the tape. And I have to listen to every single tape. Or if I film the set, I got to watch the tape and be like, even when I do well, when I don't, same, you look at it and you're like, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, you got to learn from it. So it would eat at me a bit. No. It just did not feel, there's a weird thing, like it doesn't feel good not doing well, but you get to a point where you're good at this. So it doesn't hurt your confidence.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this, but first equated, I guess, to broadcasting. So I mentioned that volleyball game. I thought I was like the king of the world, and then you realize you're not. But there are still moments where you're like, okay, I know I've got a long way to go to get to where I want to be, but like, I think that this is a path worth pursuing because I'm making some progress. And, you have these moments that are important because they're reminders of positivity or reminders of progress. Sure. Is there one that like stands out for you early on where it's like understanding like this is something you can do?
Okay, so one moment that stuck out, it was, I don't know, like I never saw it stand up as like I'm going to make a career out of this. Like I still don't. I see it as like a sport. You never go, I'm going to make a career out of being a baseball player. You're like, I'm going to be the best baseball player of all time. And you don't think of it as, ooh, now I'm getting paid to be a baseball player. I feel good. It's just like, no, you're going for the top. So one moment that stuck out, I guess, was I played, there's a few moments, but I played, the first year I did stand-up, my dad had a stroke, and he's doing great now, but I lived with him in the hospital, and he went, why don't you go to New York and do stand-up? And I went, okay, because I didn't really know what else to do. And then I was at it every night, and there were two moments that stuck out that year. First moment was I knew my uncle had just started going back on tour for stand-up. And he would play these big arenas in these big rooms. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, God, I don't know if I'll ever get the chance, but I'm going to be ready. And so the whole time I was like working on my stand-up in New York, in the back of my head, I'm like, will this work in a stadium? Yes. And then I built a set around that. And then that December, I got the chance. And it was pretty cool. It was like, everyone's like, how the did you do that a year in? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just the opportunity was kind of there. I like told them, I told everybody, I was like, hey, like, come on, give me a shot. I know I got it. And that was a big moment that just like, I played a really big place. And then it just felt like it was an achievement, but then also like, it's weird because every time you have an achievement, you realize you're in like the few days after the achievement, you're like, all right, well that was, it was fun for me. Like, I don't know if everybody remembers it, but it was fun.
And now it's like, now you're on to the next thing, right? Like,
yeah, it was like, I played a room of, this is very telling in stand-up too. Like, if you have any friends who are stand-ups, you know this is a true story. Okay. I played a room of 6,000 people, and the next, maybe 5 days later, I was in a room of 2 people. And that's just how it is.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it varies. And it was the room of 2 people just as fun in a different way. But yeah, it was, those were big moments. But I don't know. Like, I just kind of see it as me getting better and the overall progression of my stand-up. I don't know if this is a great answer, but I just think it's like, it's fun. Like, I just try to keep it fun and funny.
Okay, well, it seems like fun and funny are important for that gig specifically. So what's your process in developing content for stand-up?
Basically that. If it's funny, write it down and figure it out. That's it, really. When people just start writing stand-up and, you see similar subjects as you progress, but you just, that's it. You just write it down if you think it's funny, and then you work it out with your friends. Or you can work it out on stage, or for me, I'd call my friends. I remember I had a friend zone joke, actually, that's exactly like your situation when you were younger. I said I would get friend zoned, and I went, I always hate when women do this. Or I hate when a girl says, do you want to go to lunch? Because I know immediately that this is not going to work. And so that's like the thought I have. And then I started going, okay, how could this be funny? And I came into, okay, what if I ask a girl out to dinner? She says, what about getting lunch? I'm like, I know this is not going the right way. And then for me, I create a twist. So, like, this was one of my earliest jokes. I still use it because it's pretty good. I say, so I called a girl that I liked. I asked her out to dinner, and she said, what about getting lunch? And I didn't want to fall into the friend zone. I saw the trap there, and I've been working on it. So, and then I was like, as I was writing this joke, I was like, all right, let's figure out a twist here. So this is what I say to the girl on the phone. I just went, well, I work all day, so I can't. And she said, well, I all night, so I can't. And then I was like, okay, now how do I spin it one more time to make it like we can't end it there? So I go, so I work all day, so I can't. Well, I all night, so I can't. So we went to breakfast, and the guy she brought, he paid for both of our meals, so it was good. And that's where it. Then I called my buddy after I wrote that part. I was like, I don't think the joke's good enough. Like, I think it's missing a piece. And he went, just try it like that and see what happens. And so I went out there and I tried it. And I was like, seemed to be pretty good. All right, this is not it works. I can move on. Like, you realize, I'm not going to get much more out of this one.
Okay, so I guess what I kind of envision is like, you're living your life, you're doing whatever you're doing, and like anything, like it's almost, I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but like any little thing that happens during the day or, at any point, like it could be material, right? Like,
yeah. And everybody writes differently, but it could be something. A lot of people go, oh, don't use me in your act. I'm like, hey, like, it's my life. It's my art. What the hell do you want from me? So I never defend anybody. Like, I never go out and I never say anybody's real name or like that. Thought about it for sure, but yeah, I try not to.
Is there stuff? I'm sure every stand-up has a different philosophy with this, but like, is there content that to you is just off limits, or because like there are some stand-ups who they make a living like really digging into racy stuff. What's your stance on that?
Absolutely not. Nothing's off limits. It's just a matter if you know how to do it. At first, like, I wouldn't cover topics because I'd be like, ooh, this could get bad. But as I'm getting better, I'm like, no, I know. I'm learning how to talk about this. I also run it by my friends. So, like, if I tell a joke that's going to be harsh on women, or I think maybe, I call a girl and I ask her, hey, how do I make this like, because I don't want to, like, I want to make a point and I think it's funny, but I also want to make sure that, you know, I'm not really saying something ignorant. And sometimes you do offend people, and screw it. Like, you can't make everybody happy. And that's something that you'll learn as a stand-up. If you can make a group of people happy, and that's good enough.
So I was going to ask that because, like, the thick skin, I don't know that I had that when I was 12 years old. And outside of broadcasting, I don't know that I necessarily have that. But, like, you learn, you adapt. Is that like mentality that you just described? Is that natural for you, or is that something that you had to really grow into?
I like the idea of, like, stand-up. I just like the idea of going, like, at the time I started stand-up, I didn't have anything else. So it was just like, whatever. And there's this a feeling, it's this amazing power when you can get on a microphone and say anything you want and be anybody you want and just try anything you think is funny or anything you want, honestly. And sometimes it felt like I was a rebel. It was amazing because I was just saying anything. It's just fun. I just, you know, when people don't like you, it's okay because I had nothing else. I would just go and rework the subject. Like, what am I going to do? Like, never do this again? I had nowhere else to turn. So it was just fun.
So for me, you know, there are broadcasters in various sports that, like, I guess would be a part of my board of advisors who have been really instrumental in helping me. And
there's mentors in stand-up. It's the same. It's
who are those for you?
Mentors in stand-up. There's some guys out of Long Island that are very great stand-ups who help me. And they change. Mentors change in stand-up because you find the people that can really help you. So some guys in Long Island, they're very funny. There's a whole group of comedians in Long Island that are very funny. And there's I would say names, but there's so many mentors that it's like I don't know. Like, I'd be here listing names all night. I think my cousin's a mentor to me. My cousin's he's not a stand-up. He's getting his doctorate right now in science. But he's really funny. And he gets it. So he's a mentor to me because he's someone I check on stuff with of, like, do I say that? And, like, should I say that? And then if he's like, yeah, go for it, I'm like, okay. And it's so fun to him to see somebody take his, like, an idea that you talk about and then try it in front of 300 people. And he's like, I can't believe because it's like a direct connection. He's like, you know, say something about your mom's suite, and 10 minutes later he sees me doing something about my mom's suite in front of 300 people. It's a cool feeling. You're like, you literally get the test. Like, as a scientist, you get to see the test in front of you.
That's pretty neat. It's interesting because it seems like, and maybe I need to be doing more of this, but, like, you turn to people who do what you do, but you also really lean on people who don't because they're going to be the people who consume your work.
Yeah, that's the majority. It's like, I think there's a loss in a lot of people that they don't see what's not seen. Like, they don't see, for me, it's like, it's not seen as asking people who are real what they actually think. Asking someone who listens to your broadcast and go, how did you like it? What was up with it? Because they're the ones that are tuning in every week. So you got to stay true to yourself and how you operate, but also take into account, like, who you value. It's interesting. I think I ask more non-comedians than comedians how to do stuff.
That's interesting, and maybe that's something I need to do more of. But, like, I had this idea. I'm going to ask you who your influences are, and you know, I guess I ultimately asked you, but before I even asked you, like, I'm thinking, like he's going to answer this in a way that's totally different than anyone that I guess have asked that question to.
my influences are, I had this influence. You know what it is? You have influences that are not comedians for me. But then you have influences when you start talking about something tougher that are more comedians. Like, for example, I can have an influence that's like, I talk about this girl. I just wrote this new bit. This girl came up to me. I was going to hang out with her during this quarantine. And I'm in Florida right now, but I normally don't live here. So I told her, hey, I don't want anything too serious, if that's okay, if anything happens. And she said, I don't want to be your East Coast slam. Immediately I was thinking, joke, this is gonna be good. Yeah, you get those influences, but when I want to talk about, like, and I barely talk about hard, but the intricacies of my family or what's going on in America right now in the world, that's when I'll turn to for my cousin who's very smart, somebody who's very smart and understands it, or a comedian, and going, all right, what are the general, like, I love Chris Rock, like, all right, and I've never asked him for comedy advice, but like, watching him talk about a subject, or Dave Chappelle, but Chris Rock talking about the police and race, it's like, wow, this is so well thought out. So, and there are comedians that talk about heavy shit, and then there's some that you stay away from it. And that's the beauty of it. There are vastly different styles.
All right, so I want to shift back to the acting side of things. How do you feel like you've grown as an actor from where you were maybe when you started to where you are now?
I sucked when I started. I sucked. It was fun, but it was like, woo, that was to where I am now. I honestly, the best thing I did for acting was I went to therapy and starting to sort my life out. That was the best thing I could have done as an actor. And it's, the better my life is sorted out, the more I was able to be in a situation and, like, my head wouldn't be messed up and I could focus. It probably would have helped me in every part of my life. It does help me in every part of my life, but acting especially, it was very important. I
guess I'm jumping now to a different stream here, but one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I saw you post about it, was mental health and why. I mean, that's obviously important. It should be hopefully important to everyone, but, you know, not everyone is posting about it. I guess you just sort of maybe touched on it there, but why is that so important to you, or how did it become important to you?
Okay, so mental health, man, it's all right. So first of all, I'm trying to disconnect the dots here. So we talked about how I was raised. We talked about a little bit about our dating lives, college. Then I started acting, then stand-up. I'm 26. I've lived in L.A. and New York, and I'm in Florida right now with my family for this quarantine. And in New Hampshire, that's where I grew up. So just putting a timeline of stuff together. The mental health happened like 3 years ago, when I started going to therapy. It's important to me. Why is it important to me? It's everything, man. It's like, think about your body. Your body, you go to the gym and you work out. Think of your body as like your hardware, you know? And then mental health, if your body's your hardware, your brain's your software. You need to pay attention to both in order for you to work. It's probably the best way I can describe it. It's like you're not going to the gym. So people see it in different ways, but it's important to take care of your mental and spiritual health, your soul. And a lot of people don't understand that that's okay. And that's where it became important to me when I saw how it helped my life.
And then you mentioned, and I don't mean, again, to bounce around, but when you brought it up, it seemed like...
Oh, yeah.
perfect time to ask about that. But as far as the acting side of it, and in the grand scheme of things, how it's impacted your life is far more significant than acting. But from the acting side of it, how did that help you? What are the things that you were?
I've done more comedy so far, but like in college I did some drama. It helped me emotionally completely. Just get a grip on like who I am, and that's important as an actor. If you want to be someone else or be authentic, to just understand who you are. It just helped me on the acting side. Everybody has different triggers or that affects them. Make better decisions so I am able to walk into work with a clearer mind and I'm more me. Like, you can feel if you make a bad decision in your life and as a broadcaster and you know something's messed up, you like, for example, you're dating someone you don't like, or you have lied to your parents and you need to tell them the truth. I don't know what it is. But if you have that underneath, you know that a camera or when you're talking, it's going to pick up that you're not fully there. So it really helped as an actor just be able to show up every day and I'm fully here today. Nothing's me up.
That kind of hits close to home just because I can't tell you, I'm sure the quality in a broadcast, the difference when like, you know, so like my wife has had a lot of medical issues and their days, you know, baseball is every day. So it's not like, you know, we can schedule things necessarily always around my schedule. And their days I'd go to the field and I'd have to wait for her mom or grandmother to come, you know, to where we were staying to just kind of like help take care of her. And like that
and
would
you show up tired. You're like,
yeah,
you're not into it. It's the same as an actor, any profession, I think. When you're able to get down to who you are and like make better decisions, so you don't talk for 4 hours the night before you have something important, so you don't mess up your sleep. It's really important. Like I have this one story. I remember it perfectly. I actually auditioned, last year, 2 years ago, I auditioned for Stranger Things, and that was pretty sick. I was like, hell yeah. And it was so cool. But maybe an hour before I was going in to go do this, I couldn't remember one line. I couldn't remember, like, I was all messed up. And I was running it with my friend, and she was like, what's up? It's not about the scene. And I had something going on with my roommate, and I like felt really bad about it. And the second I talked it out with her, the scene was perfect. It was fine. And so it's a weird I don't think people realize how much their mental state matters, and people try to deflect or just suppress emotions, or just I'll deal with this later, and you go into work and you try to do a good job. But if you're actually like there for it, you're way better off.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I know for some people the topic of mental health is tough to talk about. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend everybody to go to, like, not therapy, but do your own version. You know, like, if therapy works for me, it's a great thing. Or you could go, I don't know, just take care of yourself mentally. Talking is really important. And I also think, like, some people don't like talking. Some people just like run. Some people do. They're like, I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but just know that it's okay to dedicate time to it.
Okay, so you've got a gig. Let's take The Wrong Missy, which again out on Netflix. You've got this gig. You know, all right, this is my character. These are my lines. How do you approach understanding that role? I always hear actors and actresses talk about like really understanding the character. How do you go about doing that?
For Wrong Missy or any character, you find like everybody does it differently. First of all, it's like shooting a basketball into a hoop. No one gives a how you did it as long as it goes in. I find a different process for every. It's like It's always slightly different for every character I play. And I think, I just think, like, you find the one thing that clicks for you. And for me, at least, like, other actors do it completely differently. You find the thing that clicks when you're like, you get to this point where you're like, oh, I know who the guy is. That's when it starts. And then you can make it more specific. But once you get that turning point where you're like, I got it. I know who it is going to be. Then then it works. Like, to be more specific, like for Wrong Missy, you look at this guy on camera and it's like a assistant or an assistant who's getting yelled at all the time. And I play a guy who just like always brings his boss coffee and just gets on.
Yeah, but you're Johnny on the spot. You're there right when he needs you.
That's the thing, is when I realized, oh, this guy is he's actually a fantastic assistant. That's when I was like, oh, I know who the guy is. Anything he needs, anything. And then he's a fantastic assistant that gets shaken up when he gets yelled at. That's all I needed. But everything was informed by, like, I'm there for you. Then my boss would yell at me, and it would be like, then I get confused. That's literally the pattern of every single bit in that movie, for me at least.
Okay, the last thing I want to kind of cover in that movie and a lot of the Happy Madison movies, there are a lot of you get a lot of the recurring actors, I guess, and it seems like it's this big family. And I'm curious, like, for you, and I get the sense it is, but like, it seems like with that group and you're a part of it, like, relationships are so important, and that you guys have so much fun. And I don't mean relationships from a networking standpoint. I mean, like, true relationships. I know they're important to everyone. I guess it just seems like, I don't know how many other, like, groups there are that, it seems like in every movie you can guess that, like, these 5 people are probably going to be in it. Like, I know Broken Lizard kind of had their thing going. Yeah. But I guess how important is that to you? Or what's that experience been like with having these special relationships?
I mean, for me, like, I think it's for any industry. I mean, for me, like, family's everything. So the fact that I can have a family to enjoy this journey with is the best. That's it. I mean, it's fun. And then we meet new people along the way, and that's incredible. And that's but finding the family that really will go on this ride with you. Like, I've been, like, one of the guys, like, I have been in like 7 different states with this one guy who, like, we work with. And, like, I've been in 2-3 different countries with him now. Like, I have more of a relationship with him than anybody, like, most people in my life. So it's cool to just enjoy the experience with somebody.